Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being part of today's virtual Dean's Roundtable. My name is Christopher Puto, and I'm the Dean of the University of St. Thomas Opus College of Business in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. It is my pleasure to moderate today's discussion, which will focus on how faith inspires and guides our respective MBA programs and the unique challenges and opportunities we all face in light of that inspiration. This event is the second in a series of online discussions between business school deans. Our goal is to foster a lively and productive conversation that gives each of you an opportunity to showcase your own experiences and perspectives. So now I would like to take a moment and have our participants each introduce themselves, and we'll begin with Dean Safranski.
Hi, I'm Scott Safranski. I'm Dean of the John Cook School of Business at St. Louis University, and probably not surprisingly, we're in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm excited to be a part of this conversation because at St. Louis University we feel values-based education is a very, very important part of what we do.
Thank you. All right, Dean Huang.
Hello, I am Roger Huang. I'm the Dean of the Mendoza College of Business at the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana. And here our calling card is to ask more of business and to ask more of yourselves. And I'm very happy to join this discussion group, and thank you, Chris, for organizing it.
Great. Dean Erekson.
Hello, this afternoon. I'm Homer Erekson. I'm Dean of the Neeley School of Business at Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas. And it's very good to join you, and should be a great conversation.
Well, thank you all. And again, I'm thrilled that each of you could join us today. So let's go ahead and begin our discussion. And this is meant to be an open and free-flowing forum, so each of you please feel free to offer comments and commentary as you see fit. So I'll lay out the first question, and perhaps I'll pick a volunteer, and then everyone will follow after that. So how do your traditions of faith inspire the academic teachings and administrative decisions at your institution? Homer, you want to give that a start?
Sure. We're actually the one non-Catholic institution here on board here. We actually a Disciples of Christ background here, but take very seriously being a value-centered university. And we have of course a strategic plan as a business school, but there's even something more focused. We talk about a Neeley promise. And in that Neeley promise we talk about, and we say that we are committed to unleashing human potential with leadership at the core and innovation in our spirit. So that leadership at the core is obviously a very core part of what we're doing. And it motivates our programs, our undergraduate and graduate programs. It motivates me in terms of the faculty decisions about allocation of resources to faculty for research and other kinds of activities, and for program development. And obviously, when you think about leadership, at the really base and core of that is a faith base. It's how are your values formed, and how does that contribute to leadership? So that really is the starting point for us, and really drives so much of what we do.
Very good, thanks. Dean Huang, would you like to add anything?
Sure. Over here, we're a Catholic university, and so what we try to do is to reflect the Catholic social teachings in our courses, and the way we go about doing that is two ways. First of all, in almost all the MBA classes that we have, definitely in all the core courses in the MBA program, it has these components of Catholic social teachings in it. It's covered through topics like business ethics, sustainability, corporate social responsibility. All those are in every one of our every one of our core courses that we offer to the MBA program. And another way that we introduce this faith into the courses is through dedicated courses, but that are also wedded into sometimes with the traditional topics. So, for example, we have a course on corporate governance and Catholic social teachings. And then we have standalone courses that will teach students about cover topics on religious topics that are directly related to business that we cover here at the university. And so that's one way to do it. Now, as far as administrative for the courses, as far as administrative decisions are concerned, I guess the most prominent example of that has to do with the way we go about recruiting faculty members. We tried, given everything else that's the same, we'll recruit somebody who's a Catholic as opposed to one who's a non-Catholic. But in the event that the two persons are not the same, yeah, then it's a different. Then we'll be recruiting the better person. But we do try to recruit Catholic faculty so that we remained a Catholic and not just in nominal terms here. Okay, thank you.
Okay, understood. Let's go to Dean Safranski. And how does this work with your organization?
Well, and St. Louis University is a Catholic Jesuit institution. The mission, our educational mission, stated succinctly, is that we seek truth to the greater glory of God and for the benefit of humanity. The phrase that folks around here understand or recall is that we create women and men for others. And I think that that probably encapsulates the way we treat, curricula and certainly the way we treat administrative decisions. It's not just about functional education in business. It's not just simply about making the most efficient decisions, but it's about thinking about how we impact the world and how we impact human beings, both those internal to us, and if we're talking about administrative choices, and certainly, as our students go forth and become professionals in the business world.
Very good. It's interesting to hear all these perspectives. Ours fits very closely in terms of, I'm actually not sure what the faith traditions of each of our individual faculty members are, but when we do hire, as I think the three of you have indicated, but we also hire for mission. And the mission is to understand what our vision and goals are, which is to educate men and women to think critically, act wisely, and work skillfully to advance the common good, which comes from, as Roger mentioned, Catholic social tradition. And so that's how we approach this. And interestingly enough, when we hire faculty, we have a paper that was written that sort of describes Catholic social thought in an intellectual environment. And as part of their presentation of their scholarly work, we asked them to read that paper and identify how this might fit with that. We don't have our faculty doing theological research, I assure you, but just to see how all this fits. And that's a major factor. Our curriculum, we're a little bit in the middle, again, with all of you. We have a mandatory ethics course in every one of our programs, and try to make that something that fits with what we do. So this is very interesting. Let's talk now, as I think this fits with everyone, service. So both in our local communities and in the larger world, service is a common focus at each of our schools. I'll change the order a little bit, but how do you instill the value of community involvement at the graduate levels as opposed to the undergrad? Now we're talking about whatever graduate, particular MBAs. Are there programs in place that assist with this effort? And Dean Safranski, would you like to start since you went last the first time?
Sure. And the first thing I got to get in is that right now, as I'm sitting here, as we're all sitting here, we've got a little over 200 students, faculty, and staff on a service project in a center in North St. Louis that serves youth and aging populations. I would normally be with them, and I don't know that I earned my T-shirt today by being here, but I set them off. I set them off, and I got the T-shirt. The problem is that when we say MBA programs, of course, the vast majority of those students in this effort are undergraduate students because they're here full time, and we've got a relatively large part-time MBA program, and it's hard to get folks that are working during the day to be involved in that. But we do have MBA students from certainly our full-time program, and we've got a couple of MBA students from our part-time. We've also got a couple of alums who graduated from our part-time program and have managed to get back and get involved. I think that probably more importantly, though, is that we try to provide programming, first of all, in coursework We look at what kinds of casework can we do, and adopting and using and emphasizing portions of cases that are more than just, again, making business decisions, but thinking about impacts. And we have other programs. We have one that we do very occasionally called Ethics for Breakfast, meant specifically to pull MBA students together, either from our part-time or full-time programs, at times that are good for them, early in the morning for breakfast, obviously for Ethics for Breakfast, where we'll bring in somebody from the business community to talk about a challenging problem that has actually occurred, and work through a case problem and talk about what happened in the business, and how it was ethically, how the values were resolved. The other thing that I want to mention quickly is we have a sort of a prisons program where we send a very small MBA class out to white-collar prisons to talk to professionals who haven't always done it the best way, and to begin to explore the implications of how you operate in business.
Excellent, excellent. They get to see what a slippery slope is all about.
They definitely do, and I'd like to talk more, but I think I need to leave others talk here.
Just fine. Let's move to Dean Huang. Tell us about how service works at Notre Dame.
For the graduate program, service works at Notre Dame primarily through the experiential learning experiences that we provide our students. And so let me just provide a few examples of that. So for example, we have a course that is called Business on the Front Lines. Now for this course, what happened is that the students will travel to, as a team, will travel to various countries around the world where the economies have just undergone some traumatic experience. Something like, for example, Bosnia at one point, or Sudan, and so on. So where they have been through some traumatic period, and then the students there would work with the local small businesses to see if they can help restart the economic engine there in specific hands-on projects over these countries. So that's one example of the community outreach that we do at the provide service at the global level. Another one is through our social entrepreneurship program. We send students that go all over the world, to places like Haiti, for example. And we provide, before they go over there, they have to take certain courses to be able to contribute to the local communities. And in fact, as a matter of fact, just the other day, I approved a business plan competition for a business for businesses in Haiti to compete for an award that we will provide over here. And there are many other examples. Let me give you two more. Another one is that our MBA program is it's organized in terms of modules, like I suspect some of yours are as well. And between so there are 2 mods in the semester, and between the 2 mods, there's about 2-week period. And during this 2-week period, what we do is that the students can go on these internship immersion programs, or they can partake in this interterm program where we invite businesses to come to campus and then introduce a real-life problems, and the students will solve it for a number of days, and then they will come back to judge the student solutions. Now, most of these projects are for non-profit organizations. Most of these firms are non-profit organizations, and they would have a real-life social work related projects that the students will work on. So that's another examples of involvement with the communities. And the last one that I will provide has to do with our problem-solving classes that we have. Now, with these problem-solving classes, we reach out to the various communities. It would even be local communities here. So we have, for one class, we have the mayor of the city come here. We have cities that works on housing, and they will come in here with their problems. They provide the students with the data, and the students will do the work, and then we'll try to relate it back to the leaders of the local communities to see if it is helpful. So with that, I guess I'll stop here.
All right, and I'll turn now to Dean Erekson, and let's hear how it works at TCU.
Thank you. When I think about service, it really is about, I think, approaching business education and for our students and looking at problems not of business but problems of the world, and whether it's the community or the much broader and more global world. And so I'm going to give you three kind of basic examples of that. One of them is how you think about a curriculum. So for our executive MBA program, we view that as that program really targets emerging leaders, people that are ready for the C-suite, if you will. And at that core of that program, we really emphasize leadership. We emphasize values as an organizing principle for the curriculum. We, in fact, work with Korn Ferry to help structure the framework for that particular class. But we're very intentional. When I teach the economics class there, I still deal with values in that economics class. So throughout that whole program, we start with leadership, and we have that whole theme of leadership and values that goes throughout the entire class for the executive MBA. In our full-time MBA program, one of the elements that we have is something called Neeley and Associates, similar to what has been discussed already. That particular program has teams of MBA students who go out to work with different types of organizations. Obviously, in some cases, those are businesses to solve particular problems. But we also work with nonprofits. And so we'll bring our MBA students who will tackle a particular problem that a nonprofit is facing, and it may help them in building a business plan or help them with some kind of strategy that they need to work on. But it really is to take our students in really multidisciplinary teams to look at a nonprofit program and to a nonprofit organization and to help them think through how to be a better community-based, engaged organization. And then briefly, a third piece, kind of building on the global kind of dimension that people have been mentioning before. We do a lot of different kinds of things, but I think one of the ones that I'm really pleased about is that our faculty will work in developing countries and others, particularly the Dominican Republic, South Africa. We'll take students who will work most of the time on a project such as micro loan finance, and they'll work with local artisans to help them really better establish their marketing, help them with their business plan as appropriate, and really help them to be able to grow their business. But again, it's about, in that case, it's service. It's serving a particular community to empower those local people to be more successful and hopefully have a sustainable business over time.
Very good. It's quite exciting to listen to what each of these schools, our schools, your schools, are doing, and how you reach out into both the local and the global community. Here at St. Thomas, we're fortunate to be in a large metropolitan area, and we do similar things as you all do. We partner with nonprofits. The Junior Achievement is one of our key partners, and we have our students not only teaching as volunteers in their program, but working as coaches. They've gone back and started company formation, what they used to do when I was in high school, and we actually go out, and our student teams work with high school students to help them form their business and get it moving and understand what that's all about. And the local chapter of Net Impact, our student chapter, is quite active in all these things. So this is good. Let me keep moving, and I'll warn Dean Huang that I'm going to start with you first this time. And we've touched on this a little bit, but I want to go back to it. It's the teaching of ethical, holistic values, which is a common cornerstone in each of our respective institutions. But how do you balance the need to inculcate these values with the more traditional academic content that we see in the secular schools? So Dean, would you like to give that a try as we start?
Sure. Now, in our case, it's a lot easier to do this simply because when students decides to come to Notre Dame MBA program, they came here with the expectation that this is what they would expect to receive in class. In other words, the issue is, the problem is, if an instructor is not covering the ethical dimensions of a particular issue, for example, the students will be disappointed. They come here, and so the expectation is that this is what we stand for. It's not just about learning the tools of business, so to say, but also about how to use it properly. So the expectation is there, and when they show up, they expect to see that angle in all the cases that we do, or in the topics that we discuss. They would expect the instructor to branch out in that aspect. So we look at, and also another way of looking at this is that we consider it to be just the two sides of the same coin. In other words, when you teach about business, you also teach about how to use it the right way. So that it's not, they're not independent of one another. So if you teach, so it's not just about learning the finance and accounting, but also how do you use these things, and they go hand in hand together is the point. So maybe with that, I'll stop here.
Okay, I think we'll move to Dean Erekson, and how do you bring in ethical, holistic values across the traditional disciplines?
Sure. I think it's not so much about replacing the functional disciplines and ideas in business, but it's really is adding to them and what motivates what you try to do. I mentioned earlier when I teach economics, economics is very much about choice. And that choice is not just based upon financial factors. There obviously are many things that go into a policy decision. So the context, whether you're talking about a micro or macroeconomic decision, is going to have values inherently in that. And for students to recognize, if you will, at times, it's what are the assumptions that someone is bringing to analysis. Are they? It could be a political assumption, or it could be an ethical assumption that's brought to a particular analysis, and to help students recognize that. You know, I think I also would think about, there's a Simon Sinek, I think we all know, he talks about a golden circle, where he talks about many companies that, most successful companies don't start with the what, or even the how, but they start with the why. The why of why the organization is pursuing something really is the heart of what they're about. And I think there's something really to that. And I think in our courses, whether it's an accounting class or a marketing class, for a company or to think about, you know, what are they trying to, or why are they trying? What motivates them? An objective as a mission, as a starting point, is very important, as opposed to just producing a particular product. But it's what motivates them. Why are they in a particular business? What are they trying to do for society? I think we see those things throughout our curriculum, and to me, it's not in any way diminishing the functional foundations of business, but really it's helping students understand the assumptions and their personal values, and, if you will, at times biases they might be bringing to a particular area.
Very good. Thank you very much. Dean Safranski, how does it happen at St. Louis?
Well, let me start with something I do. I teach management. And I do an opening exercise in many of my courses where I say to the students, write down a note, your best job ever, and then write down your worst job ever. And then I tell them, okay, now that you've done that, spend some time writing down what made this your best or what made it your worst. And there's no surprise in the end that it usually has a great deal to do with the manager and coworkers and how they interacted and treated each other and their subordinates as human beings and valued employees. And so I think, as was already mentioned, you know, I don't see this as a dichotomy. I see this as going hand in hand. Isn't accounting really about transparency? You know, how do you ethically and honestly report results in ways that people can look at the information and make good decisions? I was just in a conversation earlier today about information technology. Everybody these days, or at least guys my age, tend to talk about information technology as being an isolating, you know, folks walking down the street with their devices, not interacting with each other. We were talking today about how in the curriculum and how in the university as a whole do you find ways to use and to teach the use of information technology as a way to build community. And I think you can do that pretty easily with any subject. As I said earlier too, you know, there are case studies where you know, the emphasis may be on values, but even if they're not, when you make a decision, a financial decision or a production decision, what impacts is that going to have on people, going forward?
Thank you. As I listen again to the three of you offer your perspectives, it's quite refreshing to see, first of all, the commonality in terms of how we approach values, and then secondly, that we support that, and then secondly, the different aspects of how it's delivered at each school. So I'll add just a couple of points here about what happens here at St. Thomas. First is that much as we heard earlier, we believe that ethics needs to be embedded throughout the curriculum. It has to fit all the discipline courses, and even people say, "What about statistics?" And the answer is, well, statistics is one of the key places where an unethical statistician can actually corrupt the information and influence decisions in the wrong way. So we look at all the courses, and as others of you here have said, we don't expect our faculty to be practicing ethicians. We expect them to be open to engaging in discussion with all of our students in each class as to what are the ethical implications of whatever the topic and decision is. So that's one piece that we do. Secondly, I did mention earlier, we do have a required ethics course in each of our programs, but in our full-time MBA program, we add something. We have an ethics laboratory taught by the director of one of our centers for ethical business practices. And this individual, the students meet periodically throughout the semester, and they go to companies and meet with the company leaders, in particular CEOs, who have agreed to in advance to discuss an ethical dilemma they faced and how they solved it, and to get the students' input into prospective solutions at the same time. And we find that opens minds like you never would imagine when a sitting CEO says, here's a problem we have to do and what its impact is on the bottom line as well as on society. And then finally, our faculty created an elective course, it's not required, called the Reflective Manager. And actually it used to have a different name. It was called Spirituality in Business. And people were concerned that was a little bit over the top. So we repackaged it and restructured as a Reflective Manager, where people, literally the students, sit and say, okay, over my career, how did these decisions and the choices that I'll make affect what's going on in my life and in my neighborhood? So that's how we do it. Now I'm going to really hammer everybody. I've got a wild and crazy question, and this one is: how would you describe your school's philosophy for the purpose of business? So I'm going to narrow it down a little bit. What ideals do you propose teaching relating to the nature of profits, products, workers, community, or the environment? And let's see. I think I think Dean Erekson, you get to start.
Okay. Well, that's a big question.
I loaded it up.
So let me. I think fundamentally that what education is about, but business education, and what business is fundamentally about, is creating value. So what does that mean? Well, we obviously have multiple stakeholders. As a business organization, whether you're looking at customers, employees, suppliers, but also the silent stakeholder of the environment. Fundamentally, it's about creating value, and value for our stakeholders and value with our stakeholders. So I think it starts with that kind of a framework to me. As an economist, obviously, that's where I start from. How do I create value? And it's not just about profit. It's well beyond that. And that could range. We have an educational investment fund here, a student management investment fund. So in looking at which funds the students choose to invest in, I hope they think about socially responsible investment and the importance of that, and how does that either contribute to value in a significant way or not, and what are the issues around that. We in fact have a program in the Neeley School called Values and Ventures. And that program, we have a business plan competition, but well beyond that, I fund both research and teaching initiatives that support values and ventures. That means these are problems that businesses face, could be research topics that faculty want to tackle, that are about for-profit ventures. It's not social entrepreneurship, which is a good topic, but it's a for-profit venture, but it's looking on how do you do that for-profit enterprise in a value-conscious way. And so we have some very creative projects that faculty take on, whether it's in the curriculum or in their research, where they are looking at those value dimensions, whether it's in marketing in a certain way, and what does it mean to have a value-conscious marketing program. So it's really very, and I do believe that it's very important that faculty think about those value questions and approach them in different ways. So it's about blending together for-profit. How do you take a for-profit venture, but do it in a value and really responsible way?
Thank you. Let's move to Dean Huang. And what happens in South Bend?
So our philosophy, it's given to us by our founder in his mission statement. Cardinal John O'Hara founded us in 1921, and then he said that business is essentially what he said is that it's going to be a vehicle to serve mankind, and so that's what we have lived by. And I don't think we have ever veered away from that mission, and to the point where it's to the point where we don't even have. It's reflected in the way that we cover business ethic classes. For example, it's very similar to yours, Chris, over in St. Thomas. We do not. I mean, in this case here, we don't. It's there. Business ethics, for example, is present in every course, and we expect it to be universal. So we don't even have a department of business ethics. So we do have specialized courses in business ethics, but we expect business ethics to be covered in individual courses as well, and other courses that are not stated to be business ethics courses. And we would expect this to be treated in the same way that we treat, for example, international business these days. There's no such thing as the domestic market. Everything is global in nature, and we don't think that you need a department of global business, for example, but that it should be present in management and accounting, finance, and so. So it's omnipresent in a sense, and so our philosophy is to actually to make it to be part of everything that we do over here in the business school here. Now the particular courses and programs that we offer will reflect that. Will reflect this mission that we have, and we show it in many different ways. Sometimes in our research, sometimes in our courses, and sometimes in what our students do for through their endeavors out here. So I guess I will stop with that.
Okay, but thank you very much. Let's go to Dean Safranski.
Okay, yeah, and Chris, I got to tell you that when you were introducing that question as a wild question, I was holding my breath, waiting for you to answer first. But
sorry.
As others have commented, we do have ethics courses in all of our programs, but we also have a goal of ethics throughout the curriculum. And we have an ethics center that fosters and facilitates that, and libraries, cases, and so forth. But I kind of go back to what I've been saying before as well. When you listed all those things that we maybe think about, and you got to environment, I was inclined to start thinking about sustainability. And you know, you look at something like that, and how do you interpret sustainability? Well, sustainability, simply the ability to use resources in a sustainable way and preserve the environment, or are we talking about what is sustainable as an entity? You know, to be sustainable as an entity in today's world, you need to worry about what you're doing to the environment, and that's probably the negative way of saying it, but you need to focus on your impact on the environment, your impact on the community, but you need to be profitable as well, and you need to manage the business functions efficiently. And I think that's the way we approach the values-based education. One of the other things we talk about when we talk to our students is we say we're about higher purpose and greater good. So, you know, it automatically takes you beyond, you know, just those functional decisions. And I think in every one of our professional schools, and on our board of trustees, in fact, we've got professionals primarily sit on our board of trustees, and they're concerned about and focused on, what makes us distinctive. How do we, educate students in a way that's more than just, a kind of a practicum in business functions or health functions or whatever.
Thank you very much. When I introduced this question,
Chris?
in mind about the potential for wild and crazy was we have a mildly different approach here at the Opus College of Business about the purpose of business. We actually say to our students that the purpose of business, the immediate goal, is not to make a profit. And that, when I say that in public, I'm seen as a heretic in various forms. But what we say is the purpose of business is to be a good business. And then we define that, though, and we define it as one who identifies a real need in the marketplace and creates a solution that is effective at a price that's more valuable than the competition can deliver. And then we say that it also provides an environment for its workforce that is safe and at a fair and equitable wage, and that it looks at the physical and societal environment in which it functions, and it respects and protects both of those. And if it does all of those things, then it's a good business, and then we say the reward for being a good business is profit. And there's nothing wrong with profit in that context, because otherwise you're not going to stay in business very long. And it takes a while for that to settle in and for people to adapt to that, which is why I alluded to the controversial nature of our approach. But so far it's worked for us. And again, as all of you have implied, if you're not creating and delivering value in a business, it's not going to be around very long. So I've got one more question that I'll raise, and then I'll open it up for anything else that we want to talk about. So in an increasingly diverse world, and I use that word in the broadest sense, diverse, how does your respective institution create a culture welcoming to all students while still maintaining the principles upon which the institution was founded? And I think I'll start with Dean Erekson, if that works all right.
It's an interesting question, because when you think of diversity, people often will think ethnicity or something right away.
Absolutely.
But in reality, to me, it's about building and sustaining community. And what does that mean? Well, our students, sure, they bring different ethnic backgrounds. They bring different perspectives and contexts from a global setting, as we have international students who are in our program. But we also have students who are engineers, who are in class with students who are political science majors or English majors as undergraduates. So they're coming from different career backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, different global backgrounds. And so when I think about building community, it really is helping each other to understand what are the special characteristics, what are the special cultural features that each student brings. How does that help us learn together? What can we learn from each other because of our backgrounds? When we form teams, can we form teams that really draw upon not just each other's strengths, but each other's, if you will, diverse elements that will help them, in fact, build a bigger community as a team and contribute to a bigger community as a whole program. So to me, it's about community. Fort Worth was recently, last week, in fact, downtown Fort Worth was listed as the #1 livability city in the country.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was terrific. I think a lot of that is about that community aspect, that the friendliness. It's not just about cowboys. It's about cowboys and culture and bringing that together in a really positive community way. Isn't that fundamentally what our faith-based institutions are about? It's growing communities who respect each other, who value each other, and learn how to then take those values out in our professional lives into their respective broader communities.
Thank you. Let me switch now to Dean Huang. And how do you approach faith and diversity at the same time for all your students?
Over here, we think in terms of not being Catholic with a big C, but also being Catholic with a small c. In other words, we want to reach out to as many students as possible. And with the brand of education that we provide here, which I think that emphasize the ethical dimensions as well as the tools or the knowledge of business. And as such, what our aim is to be able to do this to as diverse a world as possible. So we actively seek out as our goal students from as many different backgrounds and ethnicity and locations as possible here. So in that sense, I think we embrace this global environment in that sense.
Okay, thank you. Let's slide over to St. Louis and Dean Safranski.
Okay, yeah, when you talk about diversity, there are, as I think Dean Erekson suggested, just so many dimensions and so many ways of looking at it. I think the question focusing on faith says, we are, as Notre Dame, we're Catholic, we're a Jesuit university, and a little more than half of our faculty, staff, and students are Catholic. And we've struggled with, exactly how do you orient those people to who you are while they come from, obviously, literally, I think for all of our institutions all over the world. We've got, a campus in Madrid, Spain. We've got 23 study abroad sites. We do global immersion programs with students, and all of those are obviously designed to foster an awareness of and understanding of different cultures and different diversity. Several years ago, we developed something we call the Shared Visions program, and it's now kind of morphed into a broader orientation program. The focus was on Jesuit education, but not on the principles that come out of the Jesuit order or the shared exercises or any of that, so much as how this actually applies to how the rubber meets the road in how we, again, relate to our students, educate our students, relate to each other, carry on the mission of education. And the goal was, as we've become more of a lay institution, again, you look at the pictures from 50 or 60 years ago of faculty, and most of them were wearing robes. You look at us today, and lay persons, and largely lay persons from a lot of other faith groups and different organizations, have to carry on this mission. And that's what it was Shared Visions was aimed at, and as I say, it's since moved on to a much broader orientation, and students and faculty and staff all have different opportunities to engage in that program.
Thank you very much. As each of you have already described, diversity has multiple foundations, and each of us looks at it the way I think you did. One of the things that here at St. Thomas in Twin Cities, people don't think we have a very diverse population here, but they think everyone is Scandinavian, and that's all there is to it. We have a surprisingly large Hispanic community, a large Asian community, a large community from Somalia, and so it's quite amazing how broadly based our community is. And in our graduate programs here at St. Thomas, we're probably 30% or less are Roman Catholics, and the other 70% are other. And so we want to make sure, like you all do, that we're open and welcoming to all. So one of the things that we stress is that our goal with graduate students as part of our philosophy is that each graduate student who comes here will have an opportunity while they're studying with us to get in touch with his or her own values, and that they will then learn how to recognize, once they've achieved their value identification, that values differences really don't have a valence. It's values conflict that has a valence. And so how to recognize that somebody has different values but they don't conflict, that's fine. But if there's a values conflict, how do I know I'm in it? And then how do I work to resolve that so that I can sleep at night and my colleagues can sleep at night and the owners of our company can sleep at night? And that's the approach that we try to take in all of this. So we've just finished what the final question was set up, and I'd like to now let each of you, if there's anything that you'd like to offer as additional comments, I'm going to, let's see, I think I'll start with Dean Safranski. If there's anything you'd like to add to the discussion as we wind it down, please feel free.
I guess I was just thinking a little bit about, this has been very, very enjoyable. And as I said, I was excited to be part of the conversation. And listening to the different perspectives, hearing some of the differences in what we all do has been valuable to me. And I would hope that there will be more conversations along these lines, maybe with a greater diversity of institutions as well. I was thinking I could sit and have coffee, and just with some of the things that have come up, we could sit and explore, go a little deeper, and so forth. But I think there are so many ways to do education in a way that can impact, can have a very, very positive impact on the lives, the whole course of the students we turn out, and obviously then beyond our walls. I suspect there are all sorts of things we're doing in terms of community service and education and courses and global initiatives and the habitat programs and things that we've got that just haven't come up here. And so I hope that we get more opportunities to have discussions like this.
Thank you. Let's move now to Dean Huang. And how would you like to close things out?
Let me just echo what Scott said as well. I think that this has been very valuable, and I think it may be informative for us, for the deans, from faith-based organizations as well as those who have mission-related institutions, to just gather together to share our challenges and to discuss the various solutions that we have, or just to talk about best practices and so on. I think it would be informative and helpful for us. And I know that there are several groups like these going around, and but I'm not sure that that we as a group like the one we have today have done so in the past. So thank you, Chris, for putting this together.
You're very welcome. Dean Erekson, what would you like to add?
Sure, Chris. I think the footnote, again, I would echo and also say it's been really enjoyable just to have this conversation. And I think one of the things, if we listen to each other, which has been fun to do, is to listen to the diversity of ideas and thoughts, but also the commonality of those. And one of the things you mentioned, Chris, just a few moments ago, was about talking about conflict. And to me, and I think it's evident in our institutions, no matter what our faith base is, that we welcome those conversations about conflict, those hard questions, and the value dimensions behind those. And I like to always say, what better place than a university to have open and honest conversations about the really hard problems of the world? And what better place than a business school where we're going to have those future business leaders who are going to be important roles and responsibilities throughout their careers? What better place to have conversations that they can grow from, learn from, and hopefully take into their professional lives?
Well, thank you. It's interesting to me that when we think of universities, this is a place to discover knowledge, to search for truth, and then to share the discovery and what we've found. And today's discussion just highlights every bit of that. So I just want to thank each of you for your participation today. I am delighted that you could join us for this roundtable, and I sense that you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. And so I'll say thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.